Well, we got right in the heart downtown Taipei in the old quarter. Quite busy today, as you can see. It helps when it's not raining. A slight update on what I was discussing earlier and all the different aspects of what differences there are between the Chinese and the UK societies, and further to discussions I was having with some friends over here about the differences. I think these words just reiterating that the UK surveillance state has now got to a point where really anything you do online, in print, in visual media, and anything is being catalogued, captured and stored for later use against you if that be what they deem necessary. And I don't think people, and myself included, haven't realised that our objective view of what freedom is and what rights we have been completely and utterly turned on their head in the past 10-20 years, from the time when Tony Blair proudly introduced the Human Rights Act into Parliament and succeeded in passing and incorporating it into the UK law in 1998, that really it needs seriously updating. And not only that, with social media and this so-called bulk data gathering that they do, is an infringement of our human rights. And that really, if you have some concern about an individual or a group that you think is somehow a threat to the safety of our society, in the old days you would go before a judge, present some of the evidence, at least to give the judge enough reason to grant a warrant to access the telephonic and other records that the police or security services wanted to get hold of. And often those warrants were of a limited time, and if the security services wanted to renew them, they would have to go back in front of a judge and make a pretty good argument of why this surveillance and infringement of someone's human rights should continue. Now we haven't got judges overseeing this. We haven't even got what I would call an impartial intelligence services to oversee this. It's done in bulk, and if they want to access some data, they can do it at the click of a button and leave no trace or appeal for those people concerned, or seek any redress if such surveillance was unwarranted. So I just think it's worth remembering that the world has changed and the legislators have been unable to keep up with it. And when you get the likes of Mark Zuckerberg refusing to appear before parliamentary inquiries into the nature and the operation of social media, it's a spit in the eye for the legislation and the legislators. And as we're finding out, those politicians with some backbone are now insisting that they pass legislation to restrict what these social media and Amazon and Google internet companies can do with your data. And when you tick that little box and sign up to these services, that should be no legal impediment to insist on your human rights and the right to your own data without interference, without surveillance, and without unwarranted intrusion. And that's the point. It's got to have some justification. And unfortunately, the British Secret Service seem more concerned to surveil those on the left, the socialists, the communists, the unionists, and people who are really making a difference to people's working lives. They're the ones that are being surveilled. And the likes of Julian Assange, who you can imagine seeking asylum in the Venezuelan embassy, the Ecuadorian embassy, was under the impression that at least there he would have some respite from the spying eyes of the security services. And unfortunately, in the last year of his so-called, as the Guardian say, self-imposed retreat, thank you that for the Guardian editorial on that one, they surveilled him. And not only that, English, UK and international newspapers and broadcast media put images of him, which was a clear violation of his human rights, showing him in a dishevelled state and accusing him of being some dirty protest hermit who was well rid by the Ecuadorians. And hopefully, as a UK justice system is proving time and time again, it's a problem that they'd love to export to the US, and if failing that, back to Sweden. And I guarantee you, if the extradition request fails for the US, the next one will be on the plate is that Swedish prosecutors will reopen their investigations and demand his extradition. And the only good news is that if we do leave the EU, a lot of those warrants and agreements that we have with our fellow European countries, whether in the EU or out, may no longer apply. So watch this space. EF Press shall be checking, hopefully later, see how we progress. Downtown Macau, over and out.